This hall, right? And so like the idea that if we change anything, then I'm not gonna be paying this guy that I really like, and so then he is going to go out of
He's
business.
gonna go out of business.
Like, yeah.
Or have the same level of service, if they like your service.
Right,
So,
that's true too.
A lower quality of service, is that
Fear of
fear
loss
of loss of service? Okay?
I would say one thing, because I had some friends who moved to Minneapolis who were not happy with their service, but they had never lived in St. Paul. So where they came from, so where they came from, they had higher levels of service in their trash.
Wow, I wanna know where they came from.
Well, my husband comes from New York,
Okay.
and he's constantly grumbling. He's like, yeah, we might have like a bunch of garbage on the street one day a week, but they're picked up within 5 hours, and we have our streets plowed, and we have everything. Granted, they have another system, they have other issues to deal with, but there are other cities in this country that have better systems than even Minneapolis. So I would challenge ourselves to think about what's lacking in the Minneapolis paradigm and see if we can actually do better too.
Well, and that was something that I brought up on the east side, was there was a lot of, well, this won't work, and I said, well, it might not work other places, but maybe St. Paul is gonna have this fantastic dynamic system that's better than anywhere else. So that's what we're thinking.
I just wanted to throw in there that it is that we're supposed to be the Twin Cities, but we don't look anything like Minneapolis, so that's the only reason why I think we're trying to use them as a blueprint of some sort.
Did you have a?
Yeah, I just, so, you know, like, maybe a lack of political will.
Okay.
From the constituents.
This is what, the third rail of politics, trash collection.
And another thing is that we have to be mindful is that we do all this work and this doesn't go anywhere.
Okay. So, work that doesn't happen. Because we did have, what, about a decade ago, you would know this, I'm looking to you, there was we almost had organized trash collection.
There was a lot of discussion about it in the study with them.
Right, and it just didn't happen.
Actually, I think people didn't want,
Yeah, okay.
there was a lot of resistance to it. And also the haulers, I understand that the haulers are quite capable of rallying people.
Yes, I've become aware of it.
I think actually, something that would stand in the way of actually getting something done at this point is the insistence that more study needs to be done. And I think at this point you could fairly say, no, actually no more study needs to be done. We just need to decide something.
So, too much studying?
Well, I just think, there's a third rail in politics. There's also kind of a narcolepsy in politics, and that is driven by the idea that, well, really we need to do a little bit more study. And it's just a way to say, really we need to not do anything. So, I think that in this instance is something really to resist. To say, no, we just need to decide.
Okay. I think it's a good point.
Your study probably will not end up with a result that is different from the two previous studies. And so,
Maybe.
how you put a final program together might be a little different. But in terms of, do we need organized collection? Why don't we have it? How can we get it? And those sorts of things. It's going to be repetition. So, as Tony said, when we stop studying, we say, here are some solutions, now let's decide on the solution.
Right. Well, and that's the purpose of doing as much outreach as we're doing is, I know there's been discussions about this in the 55 years I've lived in St. Paul. Nobody's ever asked my opinion before. So hopefully going around and gathering more information will get more people, like all of you, very invested in this process. Sir, you had a question?
So there's a couple of things. One, we had these meetings here, but when it actually comes to the moving of the actual decision making,
Yes.
the stakeholders at the table are not, we're not part of the actual decision making.
But you've got
much as we all would really like to have a seat at that table, we don't. And so, we only have so much power. And so we're trying to we're trying to speak with one voice as much as possible.
Well, one, I wasn't asking you to decipher everything what I'm saying, so let me finish.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So, like I said, at those tables, I'm not saying we all have to be at the table, but we need to have equitable representation at those tables, is what I'm saying about that piece. And then the lens that we look at this from is very narrow, even when we do this. Like I said, we've been doing this all over again. And this lens that we have looked at it from probably is the same lens. This lady right here, with the glasses, brought in a totally different perspective. So how do we add something new to the conversation so that we have another lens and another outcome? The other piece is looking at the big picture of what's happening. And as far as we can use those same funds that the city is doing right now to pick up all the dumping that goes on in at least in Frogtown and some of you, and do a redistribution. So maybe we can't deal with the whole city, but again, from the place of equity, where there's the most impact and the most needed, maybe we should start somewhere with some kind of plan. Now, I know Frogtown and some of you has a large expense of the city coming out and doing the dumping
Garbage pickup?
expenses.
Uh-huh.
So if we have that already in place, that taxpayers are paying for dumping, we could redistribute those funds to have some type of pilot, something that could work with some type of district or collection service that is more enhanced instead of paying for just the dumping. So I think we just need to expand some of the lenses and applications that we're trying to solve this.
Okay, can I go back to what one of the very first comments you said, equal representation at the table. What does that look like to you?
Well, it could look like from this body that we have a district council. So when the district council, whenever that table meets of decision makers who are making those decisions, that make sure that every district council has a representative that has a vote at that table as well. I mean, there can be many different ways of doing this, but just right off the bat, the fact that we have district council representation, and they represent that liaison between city and community, that's one that is already there that is present. But we can come up with many different forms and ways to make sure we have equitable representation.
Sure. So if we came up with a plan and went for every district council and presented it, and they approved of it, would you consider that to be equitable representation?
No,
No.
because merely by that happening doesn't mean that there's equitable representation from those district councils. Because right now, I'm saying that's what we have right now, and that's just the first one.
Right.
We would have to still look at, make sure that within those councils, because the report came out from, I don't know if it was a report, but there was an article in the Minneapolis paper, I think, that
Was
says
it
the
St. Paul?
district council, was it St. Paul paper?
Yeah,
It
Fred
was
Mel.
one of the papers that says the representation at the district councils, there's a large disparity among different representation
Right.
as well. So, but I'm just saying that's a system we have in place. But there's many different ways, but we have to start looking at how do we have equitable representation at the tables where decisions are being made that are impacting people in the communities.
Okay,
We have to be more intentional about that.
okay. But I'm still not sure then how we get to how we would get to what you're looking for.
Well, if you want to pay me as a consultant, I think.
No, but I would like to talk to
Well,
you. Okay, anybody else?
I wanted to just go back to what might be in a way. It's, that maybe the trash hauler, could use the buying conflict tactic where, they lower the price, right? They say, okay, we want to keep you, don't do the one trash system, or reduce you
I didn't hear that from you either. Anybody else? No? Okay. Our last question is, if you are not in favor of organized trash collection, what would it take to change your mind to be in favor of organized trash collection? Is there anybody that wouldn't see this as a good option in the city, organized trash collection?
This is the easy crowd for that one.
That is good. Okay, so then, is there anything else that you want to say about the two questions that you want to make sure we hear before we leave tonight?
I'm just really curious about the last question.
Sure.
Can you share maybe a quick summary of what you heard?
What we're hearing from people is that when they are opposed, and overwhelmingly, I would say we're not running into that, but when people are opposed, what we're hearing is they're afraid we're going to put small haulers, or that an organized system would put small haulers out of business, and the word you hear most often is freedom of choice in who their hauler is.
So what we're